going on, everyone? I'm going to be talking about what I built for a construction and remodeling company out in Tampa, Florida, which is going to save them 20 hours a week in admin time, and how you can implement something like this for yourself. So basically, the first thing that I noticed about their business when I sat down and talked to them was they were doing some things right. They use this application called Magic Plan, which essentially is this thing that you use your phone with, and you take pictures of the job site and what you're going to construct, whether it was the bathroom or the kitchen, whatever it may be. It gets the tiles, the measurements, and all the projected materials, and turns it into this, raw information sort of scope, which isn't bad at first glance because it does a lot of the heavy lifting. Where I recommend, if you don't have something like Magic Plan to start with, and you're not using some sort of imaging processor to save you a lot of hours from writing things down on paper, then I recommend Magic Plan to start. However, what they were noticing was when they would take this Magic Plan, they were still running into a wall of entering loads of information that would take hours a week. So, for example, they would use Jobber, and they would still have to manually input everything from that plan into an actual proposal, which was sent out to many different contractors, whether it was an electrician, a roofer, a florist, a plumber, whatever. They work with a large network, and if you're in the upper class mid market of construction and you're making millions a year, you really can't afford to be manually doing all of this. And this business was getting to that point where they were getting so large and they wanted to do more sites. However, this was the bottleneck that was stopping them from scaling. They were spending hours of time re-entering information, actually missing materials, where the contractors would actually go out to the site and end up calling the managers saying, hey, something's missing, and just causes a whole lot of bottlenecks and confusion. And this led all the way to the sales team, where they were manually invoicing and re-entering information. And it just led to a lot of errors and a lot of unnecessary time wasted on both the scoping side all the way down to chasing down invoicing after a job was already done. So we got into a second call, and I proposed a solution, and I went out of my way to build a free deliverable, which I showed them. So we hopped on a Zoom, and basically I built out a field plan system where now the goal wasn't to substitute what was already working, which was the image processor from their Magic Plan. But now they take this Magic Plan and it turns into a structured field plan, which is actually something that they look at and deploy to their contractors. So instead of spending hours re-entering information, now as a manager, they were reviewing the information in the admin section instead of re-entering all that data. But now they're just at a position of just fixing the information, slight tweaks, but inevitably it is a lot more accurate, and the crew sites were a lot happier with something like this, not having to call back and looking at a field plan that was a lot more confusing. Exactly was doing this was the AI parser, and I want you to think of the AI parser as 4 simple steps. It reads, extracts, organizes, and delivers. And the best part about it was trained on all of the information from that business of years and years of jobs. I took all their scopes and all their previous invoices, and now it's very intelligent, and it's like hiring a full-time employee that knows everything about your business. So now it takes these raw scopes and turns it into something that's deliverable and saves a lot more time. And now they're not guessing and relying on memory. They have a tangible system that works the same day in, day out, no matter what contractor, what job site, what material listing. It works consistently. And the really cool part about this was now I was able to automate their invoicing on the Jobber site. So I didn't know this before working with them, but Jobber has like a developer account where you can now use an API key, which is basically just a connector from the field plan system I made all the way to this Jobber developer. So the whole goal was not replacing their systems, just making it work a little bit more seamlessly. Now from the field plan all the way to Jobber, a system that knows their business like the back of their hand and does everything very consistently. Now their quoting and invoicing is automated, where before they used the basic Jobber automations, but that automation didn't know if you already spoke to the client the day before, and it still fires and sends a pointless message saying, hey, your invoice is overdue. Now it's context aware. The AI actually knows what happened yesterday and what needs to happen today. What does this specifically mean for your construction or remodeling business? Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that what I built for this company is going to work exactly the same for you guys, as everyone has a different procedure, everyone has something that works differently, which is why I enjoy this space of AI consulting, because it's not really just AI consulting, it's actually just business operations at its core. I sat down with them, I learned about how they did things, and from there I was able to figure out some systems that could possibly work. But AI is the byproduct. The real understanding comes from learning your business. So what I would tell everyone is not to buy AI tools. First, map out your workflow. So think about where the work gets stuck. For them, it was right at that beginning, that scope part. They are taking the time writing down all this information. We're now at auto builds, nothing is dropped, the crew is ready, and then all the way to the billing, everything is clean in one seamless system. So if anything we talked about today sounded like your business, I really encourage you guys to take the free AI assessment. You answer a few questions and you'll get a completely free deliverable. It'll walk you through the things you can do today to bring back ROI within your business. This does go to say that this is just a good starting point, because the truth is every business is different, and I'm going to be able to give you a good gauge of what could work with these few questions, but actually sitting down and taking the time to learn from 9 to 5 what your business is doing, how you guys are operating, is really where I'm able to pinpoint where there's 20 to 30 hours and a lot of missed money that we can bring back for your business.